I love when somebody's designing a new category. I just geek out over it. And it really seems to me like Blue 222 is really exactly what you're trying to do. You found a problem and you're trying to solve it. That is just so cool. Tell me what it is again, all right? Because I'm going to butcher it if I tell it.
So I started a company a few years ago that did environmental inspections nationwide.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw, as I got more into the industry and we grew, I saw that the whole industry was still using emails and phone calls and spreadsheets to manage their work.
Mm-hmm.
So a huge majority of the real estate industry out there is just in the 1990s as far as their level of technology.
Mm-hmm.
And then saw Uber and Airbnb, companies like that come along and thought, why is nobody doing that in this industry? So
Mm-hmm.
what we are trying to do is build, I don't want to be cliche and say the Uber of this industry, but it's a system that allows people to take the work that they're currently doing with emails, phone calls, and spreadsheets and do it very efficiently so that one person can manage the work that 10 people or more currently manage in a big real estate company, in a
Mm-hmm.
bank, in an engineering firm that's managing a lot of real estate inspections all over the country.
And
So, yeah.
I'm imagining the scale of this issue.
Mhm.
I'm thinking about the real estate companies. And of course, you have the big ones and you've got the little ones and you have all the different offices all over the place where they need to schedule these inspections. And you have these inspectors, and the inspectors aren't going to cover a big area, right? So, I mean, what is that typically going to be? Is it going to be a 5 mile radius, 10 mile radius, 100 mile radius? What are these people going to be doing?
It depends on the service. There are some people that an individual might cover the whole country, but he's not going to be
Wow.
cost effective covering the whole country.
And you can't do
Most
many.
people, no, and most people are going to do work within maybe 100 mile radius of
Mm-hmm.
their property. If
Mm-hmm.
it's a smaller assessment like a home inspection or an appraisal, it might be 10 or 20 miles that they would
Mm-hmm.
cover.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a big assessment, like a large environmental assessment, somebody may go a lot farther and be able to include that in their cost.
And how many of these inspectors are out there, do you think?
I don't know a number of inspectors, but from our studies, we think that there's about a $19 billion industry nationally
Wow.
for all types of real estate inspections,
Mm-hmm.
and about $92 billion worldwide. And it's the same problem worldwide. I talked to companies in Germany that say it's exactly the same thing. There are all these real estate companies. They're all cranking out transactions. There's a bunch of banks. They're cranking out transactions, and they're sending out hundreds and hundreds of emails every day. They're
Mm-hmm.
tracking bids on spreadsheets and losing things in the shuffle. I've seen companies, big, very large companies, that still today they'll manage hundreds of environmental inspections per month or hundreds of surveys per month, and they will send out an email with 100 properties on it to a list of 300 assessors, and they'll say, which of these sites can you do and how much will you do the environmental inspection for? And then so someone is trying to take all of those emails and figure out which site they go with, track it all in a spreadsheet or something, and then email back to each of those assessors and tell them, okay, you got the job, you didn't get the job.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a mess. And that's a very common thing throughout the industry for all of that work to be managed by emails and phone calls and spreadsheets.
What I didn't realize is that industry is a reverse auction in a sense, which kind of makes it a Wild West show. Really. I mean, essentially you're working from an electronic version of the phone book in a reverse auction with no software to manage it. That is insanely complex.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's an industry that, in a lot of ways, I mean, not just this service, but in the real estate, commercial real estate industry especially,
mm-hmm.
is really ripe for a lot of innovation.
And how did you go from doing the environmental inspections essentially to being a software developer?
Well, I think I've just always had that. I've always been that guy that just says, I can do this, and then I start doing it before I really think about how hard it's going to be. And I did that with the first company that I started, and it worked out eventually. We built a nationwide environmental inspection company, ended up getting venture capital backing, and ended up selling the company to another company eventually. But every time I've started something, it usually has been because I don't stop to think about how difficult it's going to be first. And this time I hired a developer and we started working on it. And it took us a while to get to a point where we had something that really works well. But we have something that works incredibly well right now that, if somebody wanted to set up a nationwide home inspection company, they could literally email me right now, and I could get on a call with them, show them how to do it, and have them up and running in 20 minutes. And they could use our software to manage a nationwide home inspection, a nationwide asbestos survey company, whatever real estate inspection they wanted to manage on our system, they could. All the bidding, all the scheduling, all the communications.
So this is a SaaS platform then?
It is. I call it it's a SaaS platform and a marketplace. So it works a little bit as both. I would say the primary function right now is a SaaS platform.
Okay.
So if you're a bank and you want to manage your vendors on Bluetooth 22, you can import those vendors. It walks each of those vendors through setting up their profile. And then you can manage those vendors from a dashboard. One person can manage a whole lot of work from a single dashboard. Or you can have teams that use the dashboards. I won't get into all those details. But once you are on the system, if you're an appraiser and you join the system, if you're an environmental inspector and you join the system because you were invited by a client, then you're available to every other client on the system. So now it's a platform and a marketplace.
And so the bank or the real estate company, where they sign up for the system, okay, and then they send it out to all of those inspectors, and then they're going to update their profile, and they're going to make themselves essentially a vendor on the system. And they told two friends, and they told two friends, and so on, and so it can truly become viral.
Absolutely, we've built everything with that in mind. We've built it so that it can scale exponentially and virally. So we have mechanisms in place that encourage every vendor that signs up. So if we have a bank that brings on 200 or 300 vendors, each of those vendors has the ability from their account to recommend Bluetooth 22 to other clients that they're doing work for. Because every one of them is going to have 5 or 10 or more clients that they do work for.
Of course, yeah.
So they can recommend us to those clients, to their other clients, and then those clients can sign up right away, import their vendors, and it just keeps rolling.
Wow. SaaS is all the rage nowadays. And just when you think that people out there aren't going to come up with something new, there's an untapped part of the market where somebody finds a problem and they solve it.
Yeah.
And somebody's got to have a big dream, and someone has to stop worrying about how hard it's going to be first and jump in. And it's good to know that the market has you to do that. That's pretty cool. It takes some bravado, Alan. It really does. So
Thank you.
So what stage is the company in now? You've developed this, you've said it's working. Where are you today?
We're still fairly early stage. We have what we did was we built the software. We started working with a lot of smaller clients, and then we found that it's going to work a lot better if we found one big client that we could work with and really make it work well. So we've done exactly that. We found a client that we partnered with to make sure that everything was working exactly the way it should. I told you my dog might bark, and there she goes.
I love dogs. It's all good.
She hates the UPS drivers. So so we found this. So we're working with a large client, and that client uses our system to manage all of their work nationwide. So they're a fast-growing company that uses Bluetooth 22. They manage all of their work throughout the entire United States, thousands of vendors on the system, more coming into the system every day.
Wow.
They've recently merged with another large company that does $14 million survey company. And we're moving all of that into the system. So we have proven that the system is very stable, works really well, and now we're figuring out the next step. We're taking the momentum from that. We're using that to go out and find more capital and then just begin to duplicate that. We're probably going to next stage is probably going to be to work with a lot of smaller vendors, a lot of smaller clients that could come on and use the system to manage their work nationwide or regional. It also works. I keep saying nationwide. If you wanted to build a home inspection company that covered a 50-mile radius around your city, you could do that on Bluetooth 22 as well. Works exactly the same.
And it's accessible at that level, truly. I mean, you're talking about big companies using this, and then you say, okay, a small company can do it. Usually when I hear enterprise class and small company, those things financially don't usually jive in terms of affordability and feasibility.
Yeah, I would say I would not put us in I would not call us enterprise level because I would not want to try to bite off one of the largest banks in the country. That's going to we are built. If you look at what SaaS software has done over the last 20, 30 years, 30 years ago you could get very expensive software for your Fortune 500 company to do your accounting. And then QuickBooks came along and made it accessible to companies that had one person, 5 people, 100 people. So there are people that have probably 500, 1,000 people using QuickBooks to manage their accounting. So I would put us in that category. We are shooting for the clients that are mid-size and smaller banks, mid-size and smaller real estate companies, and not necessarily trying to go out and say, hey, JP Morgan, we want you to use our system to manage all of your vendors. But there are 10,000 banks and credit unions in the country, and if we only get the lower 50%, I'd be really happy with that.
Well, and I love that it's an enablement tool for the small businesses. You're drawing the analogy to QuickBooks, and the cool thing about that is that it's really a tool like QuickBooks that made the small independent accountants really shoot up like a rocket. The amount of time that it would have taken years ago to do this stuff and truly on paper ledgers. Okay, first you have the improvement of Excel, and that's amazing. But then you go to something like QuickBooks, and now all of a sudden I can have quite a number of clients. And it's that enablement. I think back to the gold rush, right? The move west was, I'm going to go dig up gold, I'm going to strike gold, and I'm going to get rich. The people who got rich were the people who built the tools, people who enabled all those miners, the smaller folks, not the folks who actually struck it rich on the one big one. So I like your approach, and I like the analogy. That's pretty cool. And I think it's a healthy way to attach the business. If you've got one big behemoth, well, if something goes awry with the one big behemoth, you're in a lot of trouble, aren't you?
Yep.
And I'd certainly rather have a lot of little logos as an investor, so that I have some confidence that this is going to have some legs and grow organically, virally, hyperbolically, whatever it is. Either way, I'm going to feel a lot better if it's something that appeals to a much larger subset of customers across the country. So
yeah, and I think it lends itself a lot more to viral growth, because you don't grow virally by targeting the top 10 firms in your industry.
Right.
You grow virally by setting it up so that the smallest companies in your industry can sign up and use your software really quickly and easily, and it's very intuitive. And then there's just so many clients out there that we're not even really competing with somebody that might build really high level enterprise software. There's so many clients out there that need a service like this that I think there's plenty of room to grow very, very quickly.
And it may be even bigger than that. Really, it sounds to me like you're lowering the barrier of entry to new inspectors.
Well,
That
and that's
in
something
that
that
they might have access to business that would have been a lot harder to get.
absolutely. And one of the things I'll tell you about this industry, you asked me how far people travel. So I'll give you an example. In my previous company, we did environmental work nationwide, and we were located in Louisville, Kentucky. We had an office and then people all over the country doing our inspections. One day, a guy came through our office with a camera and a clipboard, and he was doing an environmental inspection of the building that we were in. And the bank that was working on this transaction had flown this guy in from Chicago.
Oh,
So what happens is in this industry there are people that are some people are flying all over the place and doing these inspections, and then you know we did that kind of work and we were right there. The bank could have called us and we could have done it incredibly inexpensively compared to the guy that flew from Chicago.
yes.
So part of the hope for this business is it makes the entire industry more efficient the more people that are using the system. Because now, instead of that bank or whoever it was in Chicago sending a person from Chicago, it makes it very easy for them to find 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 different companies that they can get a bid from in the market where they need the work, and they can get the bids really quickly, and they can see the quality of the people. They can see quality reviews of all of those contractors that are in that area, and they can make a quick selection and move on. And so now the local person gets more of the local work, and the client who's sending people all over the place now gets a much better price because they're using somebody locally.
And that's the part that I love about it, because the person who's flying all over the country working for the big client, they have that really, really strong relationship. Why? Because that's what it takes to get that business if you have no other information. When you democratize these platforms or these services, as things like Uber and Airbnb and all these different things have done, you create this new data that is based on your performance. And you're able to get a leg up relatively quickly. You can get in potentially on price when you're young, when you're first starting out, and then you go out on your own, and the performance speaks for itself, and then you'll have access to much larger clients potentially, and that's amazing. Not only, again, you're lowering barriers to entry, enabling new entrepreneurs, which I think is just exceptionally cool. And yes, it has that much more potential to go viral. Look at what Airbnb did. Airbnb did that, and they literally created companies that didn't exist before. I saw an article a week or two ago, and it's essentially used Airbnb to become a property manager.
Yeah.
Right. And indeed, while a lot of the Airbnb rentals are done by property management companies. It's not a massive percentage, but it's a very, very large share of the revenue. And a platform like this creates new entrepreneurs and new opportunity, and that rising tide rises
No,
all
absolutely.
boats.
I think that is something that we want to start encouraging people. I'm going to start reaching out to a lot of the vendors that are on the system already and just show them how easy it is for them to create a client account, pick vendors they want to use, and build a business locally, regionally, nationally, globally, however they want to build their business. And there will be people that had never thought before that was something they could do because it sounded way too difficult. I would love to build let's say that somebody has a relationship with a bank that does work, or an SBA lender that does work all over the country. They've got a really good friend that runs that SBA business, but they don't have an army of people to go out and do the work. But they know the person. Well, they could go to that person and say, I've got my own national environmental firm now. I can do all of your work nationwide. And all they have to do is log on to Bluetooth 22, create their account, set up their vendors, and they're up and running.
And it's the next step in a democratization that is moving higher and higher up in skill sets.
Yeah.
Right. So Uber is blue collar workers, essentially, folks who are not necessarily professionals or who are professionals and did it to earn extra money, or did it in tough times, because that happens to nearly everyone, unfortunately. And this starts to take that entire concept and advances that entire democratization of the economy higher and higher in skill sets.
Yeah.
I mean, what's next? We're going to have the democratized professors at the universities. That'd be crazy, wouldn't it? But somewhere in between Uber and that is the reality, and you're helping to advance the next step into an all-new industry where nobody's ever done it before.
Yeah, and I think if you look at a company like, I don't know, Salesforce, there's a number of different companies out there that have built an ecosystem around it where they make it easy to build a business on their platform.
Yes.
And that's one of the things we're really trying to make sure we do is build it so that you can build a business. And the large client that I already mentioned, I'm already talking to them about how do we make this something that allows you to even sell other products sell products to other clients, sell products to other vendors on the system that will provide another sales avenue for you that doesn't exist right now.
Mm-hmm.
So everything we're doing, we're trying to make sure that it's set up to provide a lot of new resources and new ways for people that are using our system to make money.
Well, and that's the infinite mindset that I love. I don't know who originally conceptualized that. I learned about it from Simon Sinek, and it is, we think that our maximum capability is here. Mm-hmm. But in truth be told, the real potential is way the heck out here. It's just we're inside the onion, so we can't see the outside layers of the onion. Right? They're hidden from us, so often obscured from view. But what you're talking about is saying, okay, we're starting with environmental inspections, we're starting with real estate inspections, but the platform can potentially be used as a springboard to do so much more. Yeah. And that is truly, and some of the greatest companies in the world, that's exactly what they do. Who knew that Apple was going to introduce a high-yield savings account? They're just a computer company, right? No, they have an infinite mindset that said, we're not limited by where we are today. We can be so much more if our eyes are truly open to it and we treat ourselves as an enabling technology as opposed to we're keyholed and this is the only thing we'll ever be. On the one hand, we want to target. We want to stay very, very narrow in terms of acquiring customers. But when we build technology, that's a different game altogether, right? If you can leverage the same technology and even to work it in different ways, or better yet, add increased functionality within your narrow target vertical markets, so much the better. And that is, it's genius. It's not luck. It's genius, truly.
Well, and I think too, one of the things I try to do these days versus what I would have done, in my early days of starting companies, I try to look at it as I don't really know all the answers of how people are going to use this thing. I just want to build it so that it is flexible and that it becomes a better tool, and pay attention to what everybody, what the users are saying. And when somebody has a crazy idea of how to use the system, encourage them to do that and help facilitate it. Mm-hmm. And then you never know where it's going to go. It's just like networking in any other way. You never know where it's going to lead. I would never have thought talking to you on the phone would have led, just meeting a fraternity brother online would have led to being on a podcast. So you just never know what's going to happen.
You just have to have your mind open to it. And by the way, it's Theta Xi for all those who are interested. For all you Theta Xi brothers out there, hi from Alan and Chuck.
Hey guys.
And so let's just back up a second. I just restate what's the core functionality, okay, of Bluetooth 22 that it does today, and that really enables it to potentially do more tomorrow.
Okay. So today, the steps that you would take to use the system if you are a client would be you sign up. If you have vendors that you want to use, you've got 100 vendors that you already have pre-qualified and they're vendors that you use today. You import them into your account, and the system automatically invites them all, walks them through setting up their profile, and now you can send out requests for proposal to groups of people. Let's say that you want to send out a request for proposal to all of the appraisers in the Indianapolis area. You can blast it out, and then they get notification. They can bid on the projects. Then you can assign the work to those people. You can do all of the communication with those people. During the project, there are document storage. There's a place where you can share documents and do everything you need to do to manage that project, and then grade the quality of that person when they have completed the job, and manage all of those vendors from a vendor dashboard where you can see all of your vendors nationally or locally. You can see the quality of those vendors, the services they provide. And on the vendor side, once you have signed up and you are a vendor, then you are visible to any client that wants to find you in your market, and they can just send requests for proposal to you, or they can make you a preferred vendor of their company and start using you regularly. So that's the main functionality. It's managing preferred vendors, getting bids from those preferred vendors, assigning the work, communicating, and keeping track of the quality.
That is really cool. All right, now I'm going to throw a zinger at you. I have a friend who's in the art business, and he does as much work in France as he does here in Pennsylvania. And so let's just say you've got somebody who's doing this, and they happen to have connections in Germany. You mentioned that before. I don't know whether it was in our interview here or whether you did it in prep, but in Germany. And it's just as easy for them to do it over there.
Yes.
So the same little, small, medium company could have that body of work. I'm going to be in Germany for the summer, which in 2023, we think differently about things like that with remote work. I'm going to be in Germany for the summer, and I could take jobs over there while I'm in Germany.
Absolutely.
And then I could return to the U.S. for 9 months, and I can do my job where my normal home base.
Yes, the way it's set up now, it's all built globally, so that all the mapping systems and search functions are global. So if a company, in fact, I'm already talking to some companies in Germany. There's a person I'm working with in Germany and South Africa that just is really tied into the real estate community. And anyway, if a company in Germany right now could set up, import their vendors, manage their vendors there. And then, as you were just talking about, if I'm a vendor and I realize, hey, I'm going to go visit my brother who lives in Germany, and I'm going to stay there for 4 months, and I want to pick up some work when I'm there. If it's a type of work that I'm familiar with over there, then I can just change it in my account. I can list both locations. You know, if I do work regularly in Indianapolis, but then I spend half of my month in Tampa for whatever reason, I can list both of those locations on my profile and pick up work in either one of those locations.
Well, I think I'm going to have to go figure out how to be an inspector. And this sounds like a pretty good deal for the people that can pull it off. That's really cool. And you mentioned South Africa. Boy, the real estate market's changing in South Africa with their water issues right now. So that's you think environmental inspections in South Africa. I can't even imagine what's going on there. But anyway, so where do you go from here? What's it going to take to get you to realize your dream?
So we're in the process of figuring out the next stage of funding for the company, and you know, we definitely have support from the big client that we've been working with, a good relationship, and I think we've got their support in being able to say, look, this works really well, and we want to see Blue 22 do really well, and we're all going to work together to figure out how to you know, make all the boats rise with the tide. And so I'm in the process of figuring out what my next stage of funding is going to be for the company. Reaching out to a lot of the vendors and users of the system and just batting ideas around with them as to, you know, if we found 10 different companies that all wanted to kind of pitch in and help us grow, and then we all work together to do something great, that would be great. If a big real estate company came along and said, hey, we want this, and we want to help you fund it and take it to the next level and make it $1 billion company, fantastic. So right now I'm wide open. We're even looking at potentially, doing some crowdfunding, just because I'm a huge believer in that. I think that's in its infancy right now. But it's going to be the way a significant percentage of startup companies, early stage companies, get started and grow. As that market matures, the start engines and we funders out there, I'm a huge believer in that. I think it's a fantastic way to grow. So that's one option we're looking at. If somebody came along and said, Alan, I'll write you a big check, that would be great. So I don't know what that's going to look like. I'm not making an offering here or anything. Can't really do that. But right now I'm just trying to figure out what that next step is going to look like. But we're going to move pretty quickly. It's going to be within a few weeks. We're going to be figuring out what our next stage of funding looks like.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not like you're just shooting from the hip here and spraying and praying. You've let me know that you're working all of these avenues proactively, and it's all of these avenues are, let's just say you've made advancements in all the different possibilities. But I love the crowdfunding in that it's almost poetic.
Yeah.
Crowdfunding is a democratization of venture capital and investment in startup companies. And Blue 222 is a democratization of this market and these vendors and this activity. And it's almost poetic to have democratization powered by democratization, or fueled by it. And that just kind of feels cool too. So, and truly, it's a great concept. I think that it's not going to replace traditional venture capital and traditional investing, but it's certainly there's a lot of ground to cover and a lot of room to grow in that area. And I think it's brilliant. And I will tell you, as an investor, I've looked at that as well as potential diversification for me.
One of the cool things I think about that sort of funding, especially in a business like ours where we have a lot of vendors on the system, is that we could allow every vendor the potential to be an investor in the company. Every user of the system could be an investor if we went that crowdfunding route. And I like that. There's something about everybody having some ownership, and then they all want to see it do well. So, there's a lot of potential for that.
Well, and that contributes to the virality as well. Once they have a stake in it, they believe what you believe, they believe in your success, it's going to enrich them in two ways. One, as a tool, and two, as an investment vehicle, and certainly they will certainly be invested in success for the long term. And so I think that while some people have dreams of things going viral, certainly this fits the bill as one that's better than average for darn sure, brother.
Absolutely.
Ain't no doubt.
Absolutely.
That is very cool. So do you have anything else you'd like to share with folks before we wrap up here?
My dog does. I'll let her go.
That darn UPS guy. No, UPS, we love you. I swear.
I think for anybody out there that has an interest in using Blue 222, and you've got a crazy idea of something that that has a tie to the real estate industry, and it involves any kind of inspections, any sort of transactional services in the real estate industry, and you want to build a nationwide company out of it, or a local company, or a global company, get a hold of me and I'll show you how to do it. So that's one thing. And again, if anybody has an interest in being involved on the corporate side of helping us grow this thing, or sees a need for their large real estate company, I'm easy to get a hold of. Get a hold of me, and I would love to talk about it and find a way to accelerate things together.
That's fantastic. And everything you need to do to get in touch with Alan's going to be in the show notes here. That's not going to be any problem whatsoever. Heck, I found him, so how hard can it be?
Yeah.
All right. Well, man, I couldn't be happier that you reached out to me on a whim. It was just nice to be able to speak with a Theta Xi brother and get to know each other. For the record, Purdue, Lehigh University, two amazing places. And to learn more about your business has just been so cool. Just so cool. And as I said, I geek out over categories, man, category design, and people that think differently and people that have big dreams. And you fit the bill all the way across the board. So that is so cool, man. Thanks. I'm really
No,
grateful for your time.
I appreciate it, and it's great getting to know you, and thanks for having me on here.
Cool, cool. Thanks. And by the way, you still win the prize. I keep saying it, but I'm expecting you to tell jokes. It looks like you're standing in front of the wall at the Improv with your background. You win the prize for best background on Zoom.
Thank you.
All right. Cool, cool. All right. Thanks, Alan.
All right. See you, Chuck.
Cheers.
Hi, this is Alan Grosheider with Bluetooth 22. Wanted to make a quick video to show you how easy it is to use Bluetooth 22 to manage any type of real estate inspectors locally, regionally, nationally, or even globally. It's easy to import your existing vendors. It's easy to find new vendors on the system, build out your coverage in any location you want to, and then manage all of the bidding, scheduling, and communication with those contractors to run your business. Getting started is really simple. You just click on sign up, fill out this little form. We get a notification that you have signed up, and when your account is approved, you'll sign on and see a dashboard that looks like this. There won't be any information here when you first sign up because you won't have any projects in the system. But to get started, if you have a list of preferred vendors that you already use, you can import them here by clicking Preferred Vendors, Invite Vendors, and then click Invite Single Vendor if you want to invite one at a time, or click Invite Multiple Vendors and import a spreadsheet if you want to invite multiple vendors at one time. Once your vendors have signed up, they'll show up under this Preferred Vendors tab, Vendors List, and from there you can see all kinds of information about those vendors, email address, phone number, city, state, zip. Click here, you can see all of the different services that they provide. You can look at email stats for all of the emails that have come from the system to see if they're opening their emails, how fast they're opening their emails, if they've bounced or not. You can map all of your vendors, so you can see where you have vendors located around the country and use that to help you continue to add vendors and locations and build out your service locations. Or obviously this also works locally, so if you want to build out a group of vendors in a local market, you can do that as well. Now from the vendor side, the vendor is going to have a very similar dashboard for their active projects. And when they sign up, they're going to just fill out a simple profile. So they're going to fill out their this standard profile information, hopefully put a better bio than that in, profile picture, and then they can show any preferred service zones. So if you're a vendor on the system and you cover more than one location or even whole states, you can add that in. You can show all of the service capabilities that you're capable of performing. So pretty much any kind of real estate inspection we've built into the system. So select the service capabilities that you're able to perform, and then you can upload profile documents. So you can put in a resume, you can put in an SOQ for your company, you can put in licenses and certifications, and now that information is going to be available for clients when they want to hire you. So back on the client account, now that I have imported my vendors and I am ready to send out a project, I just click Post Project, Single Project, and then I fill out this form. It's pretty typical real estate information. So site location, a little bit of information about the size of the property, the number of buildings, what kind of service I need. So if I need an environmental inspection, I can click there. If I need a property condition assessment, select that. Surveys, all sorts of real estate inspection information. And then I'll pull up one that's already filled out to show you what that looks like completed. So here's one that's filled out for Phase 1 environmental site assessment on an auto repair shop. There are a number of features that I won't go into just to save time, but global documents I can build in. I can add documents to this RFP that I'm sending out. And then I'm going to click continue. It's going to ask me to double check everything. Now I'm going to click pick vendors. And the system is going to search for all of the available vendors that are in the area of that property. It's going to pull up all of those available vendors. It's going to give me reviews of those vendors if I want to scroll through and see what I've rated those vendors in the past or other clients have rated for that vendor in the past. I can click on the vendor's name and it will pull up the entire vendor's profile. I can see all of the information that they've entered in as their service capabilities, their service zones, their quality reviews, how many times they've been hired on the system, documents that they've put in for their certifications or resumes, SOQs, that kind of thing. I can review and make sure that that person is somebody that I want to hire. And then I can select each vendor that I want to send an RFP. I click Get Bids. And now the system is going to send an email and a text to each of those vendors. So the whole point of the system is it's going to allow me to send out RFPs with one click instead of sending an email to each of those individuals. The system is going to send an email and a text to each of those individuals and request that they bid on the project. So on the vendor side, this is what they're going to see. They're going to get an email and a text saying that they were invited to bid on this project. They're going to open their dashboard. They're going to see that they received an RFP, and then they can just open that up, see all the information I've put in for the site. We've got all kinds of Google Map information built in, so it makes it easy to see where the site is located, make sure it's the right location that they're bidding on. They can ask questions through a message center. And then when they can see any documents I've attached, and when they're ready, they just put in their bid amount. And when they can deliver it, describe their proposal if they want to. Attach a PDF file if they want to put some sort of more formal letter in, and then submit their proposal. And they're done. So back on the client side again, I'm going to get a notification every time someone submits a bid or sends me a message, and I can either click here to go to that message, or I also receive an email and I can click on a link in that message and it will take me directly to the project. So I'm going to go into that project and I'm going to see that I invited these people to bid on the project. I've received proposals from these two. I can send reminders if I need to the person that hasn't bid yet. I can see if anybody has declined the project. And when I'm ready to hire a person, I can just click accept. And no matter how many people I have invited to bid on this project, they're all going to receive a notification. The person who received the project is going to receive a notification that they got the job, and everybody else is going to get a notification that they didn't get the job. Once I have accepted a vendor to do the project, it moves into the active projects column. And from there, I can open the project. I can see an activity overview of everything that happens on the project. I can go back and look at the information that I put in for that project, who the project was awarded to. We can share files, so we can each upload files here or download files to the same Dropbox. We can share drive links, so if the vendor has a Dropbox link that has all of their photos in it, they can attach it there. I can leave site notes for the vendor to make sure that they are looking for specific things. We can keep all of our communications in one spot right there. And I can schedule the site visit date and time with the vendor through this calendar tab. So hopefully you can see that the system is pretty easy to use. It would be easy to get on there and set up a local home inspection company if you wanted to, with 100 home inspectors that are going out to do work. You could set up a nationwide asbestos survey company with contractors all over the country that you're managing. And the nice thing about it is it doesn't cost anything to use the system. If you're a client, when you're sending work out, there's no cost to use the system whatsoever. The only cost is as a vendor, when you receive a project, there is a small transaction fee, very small, something like $15 per transaction. It's a small percentage of the fee that you're charging to the client. But get a hold of me today. I can help you get set up in minutes and upload vendors if you need to, show you how to find vendors on the system and build out your coverage wherever you want to.